I've been reviewing too many good movies lately. Why can't someone give me either a terrible or mediocre movie to talk about?
Just about to turn 13!
Perfect. So in Netflix's never-ending attempt to be both relevant to the youngins and try to dominate the market with anything and everything, we get 13 the Musical. One of the worst titles I've heard in quite a while. Based on the Broadway musical of the same name, this film was directed by Tamara Davis and tells the story of a boy who, on the crux of turning 13 and having his ultimate bar mitzvah, has to move from New York to Indiana because his parents are getting divorced. What follows is about as standard of a kid's film as you can get, and that's a damn shame, because there's honestly some good stuff here.
I'm sorry, what?
To my surprise, 13 the Musical is actually a pretty competently made film, with the kids giving their all and some surprisingly good songs and musical numbers. We've been in this revival of movie musicals for the past several years now, and it's interesting to see what kind of musicals studios will greenlight and which ones they won't. Aside from Disney, no one's really making musicals for kids. It's a surprisingly small genre, and I think there should be more made by other studios. Just not quite like this. As I said before, this is about as generic a story can be for a kids film. Just about every single cliche beat is hit here. Kid moves to new town, meets a new friend, leaves for new popular friends, does something to make new friends hate him, reconciles with them all by the end, ends in a big dance party. I know that this is a movie made for kids and I'm not the target audience, but that doesn't change the fact that movies made for kids should put in more effort and try harder. Had the comedy been on the levels of something like Pixar, or the musical numbers been as imaginative as films like In the Heights or even High School Musical 3, then I wouldn't be as hard on the story. Sadly, the comedy is passable with a few chuckles here and there, and the musical numbers are fine. A major annoyance for me was there was a lot of storylines that were set up and either had no payoff, or whatever payoff it had was incredibly insignificant to the overall story. It just made me wonder why they set certain stuff up at all and kept taking me out of the movie. For me, I think what can make a movie musical good and memorable is the musical numbers. There needs to be some level of imagination and creativity thrown into each number. This isn't Broadway where you have to work with your limitations. There are no limitations in film. You can go as crazy and imaginative as you want, even if it's a story that takes place in the real world. Films like In the Heights, La La Land, and Tick Tick Boom really understood this. When you let your imagination run wild, your musical can become more memorable. But if you go the Dear Evan Hansen or Disney live-action remake route and have absolutely no imagination to your musical numbers at all, your film can become worse for it. Here, musical numbers are fine. While the singing and dancing is incredibly impressive, it mostly felt like they just stuck the camera down and filmed the kids. There wasn't really many numbers that went super creative aside from one or two. Had they really gone wild with the numbers, then I'd definitely be singing a different tune. However, the songs are actually surprisingly catchy and a lot of fun. These kids are giving it their all, and you can see how much fun they're having on screen. While I don't think the songs will be talked about in the same way films like The Greatest Showman are, I still think it's worthwhile to give them a listen, especially for a kids film. Another thing that kind of irks me about kids movies these days is how they try to relate and be hip with the kids to varying degrees of success. Sometimes the dialogue will feel natural, and other times it'll feel like it was written by a 40-year-old white man. This is why I love films like Good Boys. Aside from the sex jokes and swearing, that film really understood how kids talk and act. It's incredibly rare for a film to really understand kids, and to see that film do it so well was honestly shocking. Here, it's pretty much a take it or leave it. Again, this was not a movie made for me. It was made for kids around this age going through similar things as the main character, and it went to deliver a fun musical that kids can enjoy. I think on that level it succeeded, and I think kids could get a lot of fun out of it. For adults that either have to sit through it with their kids, or weirdos like me that chose to watch it, you could certainly watch something worse. While 13 the Musical may be as generic as kids movies can come, musical numbers and songs are ultimately what saved this film. Honestly, not a bad time, just not one that I think I'll check out again. I'm going to give 13 the Musical a 5 out of 10.